You have garden issues, I have garden issues. Probably the same ones. Deer, caterpillar, weeds, maybe a bear. Today, me and Erin from the Impatient Gardener are making a video that's sponsored by Troy-Bilt dealing with 6, I know this is 5, but 6 garden problems and their solutions. It's gonna be fun. Ready? Let's go. Hey Erin, here's my big problem. Well, varmints and also Labradors are getting into my compost bin. And basically the other day I came over here and here are the pictures. But the whole front of this is torn off and the Labrador can't do that. I mean, this is my process. This is my little compost. It even says compost. From the fridge, it's basically vegetables. And then I take this and pour that in. Then every couple of times I pour that in, I take some of my leaf mulch and add that in. So is this a cocktail for large and smaller varmints to like, I don't know, I'm a little crushed because I really like my compost bin. I also really like my Labrador, but what can I do to keep the varmints out?
Hey Eric, I couldn't believe it when I saw your compost pile. I'm pretty glad I don't deal with bears getting into my compost here, but dogs in the compost I know a little bit about, although mine don't show a ton of interest in it. And we use a system very much like you do. This is our little bucket that we put our kitchen scraps in. We've got our coffee from this morning in here, some leftover chives, some eggshells, some zucchini skins, things like that. So those are great additions to the compost. And I would say, you know, it would be sad to have to start throwing those things away because you didn't want to have to deal with the varmint problem, which I know a lot of people are really worried about. So first of all, let's just cover the basic rules on compost, which is don't put any meats or fats into your compost because those will draw rodents and things that you really don't want. We actually have a 2-bin system. I'm just kind of starting a second one now. But what I will do is I keep this over by the compost to stir things. I just take the handle and I just sort of dig a hole, a realistic size, and then I dump everything in there and then I bury that really well. So I would say, you know how you said that you add leaves to your compost every couple of times? I would say instead of doing that, just bury it deeply in there. If it's still a huge problem, which I don't think it will be once you do that, if it's still a problem, then you might have to hold off on adding your kitchen scraps to your compost and just use things like clippings from your garden and things that aren't going to attract bears and whatever else, Labradors too, I guess.
What do I do about grass that grows up into my raised beds? This has been a thing for me for years. I basically spent a lot of time pulling this out, and I'd rather it not start from the get-go.
Well, Eric, since you're getting up close and personal with your grass problems, I thought I'd get up close and personal with mine too. And for me, it's on the edge of my vegetable garden here. The grass obviously is right on the other side of the fence, and I've mulched this area, but that alone is not necessarily the easiest way to stop this problem. You can see that I've got weeds coming in here, there's some grass popping up from underneath the fence, but fortunately, in terms of problems, this one's pretty easy to solve. So you just need to smother that grass and eliminate it, and it's going to keep popping into your beds and coming out the edges like that because grass is tough. That's why we run around on grass, because it is a tough surface. So I would recommend that you could take some cardboard or several layers of newspaper and lay those down first, which will have that smothering effect, and then mulch over the top of that. That should keep the weeds at bay for several years, and then you might have to repeat that in the future. But anytime you're growing grass right up against something like a raised bed, it's going to find a way to get underneath there and get in there.
Every year I plant a lot of kale because, well, who doesn't like kale? I like kale. Do you like kale? Erin, do you like kale? My problem here is that every year it grows super robust, and then all of a sudden I see, well, I call it skeletonized. the leaves are still there physically, but none of the leaf is there. You can just see the main rib of the stem and some of the veins of the leaf, and all the leaf material is gone. And then there are these like 1-inch long caterpillars that are green with kind of a black stripe, I think it is. And it's overwhelming the plant. So what can I do?
So Eric, your description of the caterpillars that you are having a problem with on your kale was spot on, because I knew immediately what you're talking about. Those are cabbage worms, also cabbage lopers. There's all sorts of different names for the same thing, but at the end of the day, they're the larvae of the cabbage white butterfly, which are those pretty little 1.5 inch wide white butterflies that you see flitting all over the place in summer. And they, of course, are laying their eggs on anything in that cabbage family. So that's kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, anything like that. And of course, as soon as those eggs hatch, they become those caterpillars, and then they go to town and you lose your crop. So the good news is that while they are really destructive, they are relatively easy to manage. So you're way ahead of me on planting. I was just gonna plant this cabbage today. So the easiest way to deal with those caterpillars is to prevent them to begin with. So once you plant your crops, take something like this. This is, some people call this floating row cover, but you can tell it's a sheer fabric. I use it for everything. I use it for frost protection, and cover up your crops from the beginning. This comes in different weights. You need a relatively thin weight for this, obviously, because you want light to still come through. And you just eliminate those butterflies. If the butterflies can't get to the plant, the caterpillars won't be there. So when you plant your kale, cabbage, brassica family crops, immediately cover them right from the get-go, and that will eliminate the problem. Now you might have to sort of stake the fabric up. You're going to have to sort of devise a way to allow your crops to grow. And because brassicas don't need anything to pollinate them, you don't have to worry about letting pollinators in there. You can leave these covered right up until the day you eat them. So the easiest way to have a problem is to just eliminate it from the get-go. But let's say you don't want to do that, or you forget to do that, or you can't do that for some reason. The next thing you can do is pick them off. So check the undersides of the leaves. They always hang out on the undersides of the leaves. Check those for eggs. Check those for the little cabbage worms. Pick them off. You can even just like throw them on the ground and other bugs will take care of them. They're not going to crawl back up again. So that's two really easy ways to deal with them. Now, let's say the problem gets out of control and you can't manage it that way. There are a couple of sprays you can use. One is a spinosad-based spray and the other one is BT. Either one of those will work as well, but you do need to be really careful about not spraying those when pollinating insects are around, because they can affect pollinators. So just avoid that. But really should be no need to necessarily get to that point, because you should be able to control them in one of the other ways that I mentioned. So, all right, now I got to get to go to planting this cabbage.
How cool is that? 3 problems, 3 solutions. There's 3 more to solve though. Me and Erin are going to be in the next video. Should be floating over here on her channel. If the link isn't there, it'll be right below in the text here. 3 more problems, 3 more solutions, us spending more time together. Ready? Let's go.